So for a while now, I've wrestled with the concept of practicing technique because I realized that once I became comfortable with the fact that I was going to have to practice technique and practice it a lot, at some point I started to feel unsure of my technical work. In other words, I think there were things happening that weren't really pointed towards my number one goal, which was playing music and being as creative and artistic as possible. So since I realized that, I've been very concerned with trying to never do any technical work that can't be directly correlated to, something I'm going to do in peace, or just something that I want to be able to do to express myself. It needs to have some kind of overarching high priority. Otherwise, I don't need to work on it. And it's tricky in teaching because when I work with people, sure, you have to teach people that, we have to work on technique. We need repetitive, good movements. We need to build the muscle memory. We need to build the strength and the endurance and all these benefits that we get from technical practice so that we can just hopefully, think things that we want to do, and as much as possible, they come out on our instrument. But I've really wrestled with trying to find that line. And, is this a good technical exercise, or does it need something else to make it more musical? Kind of things like that. Or, do they just need to get used to doing these movements first before they can even think about what they might want to do or say with it? To me, it's been very tricky to get my mind around. So one of the things that I've done that I later looked back on and thought, well, was that a musical exercise? Is I used to do a lot of scale practice, really slow, and trying to make every note sound exactly the same. Something like this. Okay, and I've done a lot of that kind of work. Now, in looking back, I think, well, is that a good exercise? There's nothing going on there musically, so is this musical technique, or is it not? If it's not, I need to get rid of it, and I shouldn't recommend it to anyone. But at the same time, I felt like it really did help me. There were a lot of advantages there, and I know that one of the big advantages were it develops control. But control of what? Well, control of sound. But control in making every note sound the same? Like, I don't want every note to sound the same. No matter what you're playing, it needs to have some kind of dynamic, some kind of life, some kind of direction, right? So that bothered me, and I was thinking, well, I feel like that was beneficial, but I guess I'm not sure how. So yesterday, I was doing lunges with a kettlebell around my house because sometimes these things just hit you out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it came to me. And I thought, that is a musical exercise, and here's why. Okay. Because on the guitar, when you go from string to string, no string is exactly like the other string. Best case scenario is you've got the 3 trebles and you've got the 3 basses. But they're all their own animal. They all respond a little bit differently. And as someone who wants to control our sound, we need to learn how to adapt to each string and use it to shape our voice, so that we go for a certain tone of voice. Because we switch strings, that doesn't mean we have to lose that tone of voice. We have to control it across the different strings. So if we practice trying to make every note sound the same, we are practicing control of learning how to facilitate our tone of voice across the different strings. And we need to do that because the strings change. Each time you get to a new string, it's different. It's not like the previous string, and it's not going to be like the next string. So we need to know how to make these tiny little adjustments and get so used to them, and then with our ears know, yep, that was a consistent tone of voice across all the strings, so that when we're playing a line, don't have to think about the string crossing as much, or things of that nature. We can just think, play the line. This is the way I want it to sound. This is the tone of voice that I want, and I can control it because I've really worked on, no matter what string I come across, I still have my good, loud, deep, firm sound. That's as good as I can make. So, hopefully this is something that you've never wrestled with. I kind of lose sleep over these things sometimes. But it really helped me to define that and say, this is a very musical exercise, even though what you're trying to do is make every note sound the same. If it were on an instrument where all the strings sounded exactly the same, then this probably wouldn't be a very musical exercise. But because if you're playing a nylon string guitar, and especially a good one, it's extremely sensitive. So you're developing your touch in manipulating the control of each individual string. And that is going to pay dividends as you feel that in your hands, and then you make the connection with your mind, and you just say, I want to do this with this line, and your finger is going to be much more likely to make it happen. So in that weird way, practicing scales, slowly but loud, and trying to make every note sound exactly the same, I now believe strongly facilitates a very musical technique. And of course, there's lots of things you can do from there to further facilitate musical technique. But I think it's a great place to start, and I always think that's a beneficial exercise to do. And now I don't have to feel guilty about it, because I found a way that I found a definition and an aspect of it that I think directly points towards my most important goals. So I think it ends up being a very musical exercise. Thanks for watching, and come join us at the A Guitar community. And don't worry about my hair. I'm pretty sure it's going to grow back. That's usually what happens when I shave my head. It ends up growing back.